got the little circle going.
Looks like we're live.
We're live. Hello, everybody. This is Street Fight Politics. We've got a dynamite show today. We've got Harry Ramsbottom out in the netherworld of Virginia looking for housing. We've got Louis traipsing off to Texas, braving the red tide in Dallas. And I'm sitting here in my studio here in Phoenix, where it is finally below 100 degrees. 113 days in a row, it has been above 100. And of those, 63 of those days were above 110. So yeah, it's like we're celebrating here in Phoenix today that we finally don't have to, hit the AC and put it on Arctic. You can actually turn it down a little bit. So, well, Louis, why don't you tell us, what are you seeing over there in Dallas?
Well, Dallas is interesting. First of all, it real quick on the Phoenix heat. I have this big pine tree out front. I don't know who planted a pine tree out there, but anyway, that's another story. But all of my branches of the tree have dried out with the exception of 2. So I think the tree is going to survive. But we'll see, man. I've been watering it every day and trying my best. So I'm praying I don't have to, get that thing cut down. It's huge. It'd be a few $1,000s to cut that thing. So plus it's beautiful.
Yeah, you're right. Who plants a pine tree in Phoenix or the greater Phoenix metroplex?
Yeah, someone in their infinite wisdom, who knows when. But to your question, Dallas is interesting. I mean, it's Texas, number one. I love Texas. The politics are a little odd. The food is great, but it's been I'm here in Dallas for an event for a client, but the mood, I would say, and the tone, just kind of sitting at the bar or sitting in the hotel, listening around, is pretty pro-Trump, which is not necessarily unexpected, but it's a little bit more than I would have expected, given everything that we've seen in the past few weeks. Like we were talking about, from eating dogs to assassination attempts to who knows what else. But this surreal world we live in doesn't seem to affect people's opinion on voting for Trump, at least here. So yeah.
Well, I spent 10 years in Dallas going to medical school and training after medical school, and I'm going to bet that you're in the business part of town. And
oh yeah,
the business. Dallas is actually a blue city now. Everybody that is, in city government and even county government is now a Democrat. So my guess is that you've got, a lot of the business people that are still very Trump. It's like you've got
right.
oil industry there, and a lot of aerospace, a lot of finance.
Yeah, let's just say, without revealing clients and saying anything negative about, but let's just say there are a lot of chamber folks, right, is what it really comes down to. And, business folks that have different interests. And I think, a lot of their reasoning for voting the way they do is from the mindset of that perspective. When in my opinion, in reality, I think Harris would do equally, if not better job for local business, small businesses. So, but, again, to your question, that's what I'm hearing here.
Yeah, I had a meeting with the local chamber here in Norfolk, Virginia, which is, believe it or not, the largest chamber of commerce in Virginia. That kind of surprised me because it's a regional chamber. They've got Virginia Beach all the way to Norfolk and beyond, right. And very defense heavy. Obviously, this is for people on the West Coast who think San Diego is a Navy town. Norfolk, Virginia is the corollary to that on the East Coast. So lots and lots of Navy.
More so, I mean, basically Norfolk is just all Navy. San Diego has other stuff going on besides the Navy, but it's still.
Well, no, there's a lot of other stuff other than just Navy, but it is. I mean, it's a Navy town, and it has been for 150 ever since the Civil War and before. So interesting talking to the chamber, and I think very much like Louis, where you can drive around town, and Virginia is very much a purple, if not a blue state, but definitely pockets of Trump support, and they're not even shy about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the things I want to talk about is what I see as, for lack of a better term, a double standard with the way they're handling Trump. And what I see is his very serious decline in his mental state. Basically, I think he's sliding into dementia. His pre-morbid personality tics are getting worse. And it's something that, if we, one, I don't want him to go away. I want to be running against him. But it's a real problem when you've got somebody that you're trying to have, a discussion with, and we're talking about, he gets backed into a corner, and all of a sudden he's talking about Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs and stealing the geese out of the ponds. And it's a real problem that how do you come back and have any discussion that's sane with that? And then we have this, I'm going to put air quotes, assassination attempt. And I've got something to say about the assassination part. That, it's automatically, being projected as, well, this is the Democrats because, they're using hate speech and, getting everybody riled up. When it's like, that's really the pot calling the kettle black there, when that's all we've heard out of Trump, for the last 8-10 years.
It's to try and say that violence is being perpetrated or encouraged by anybody else than him it's just asinine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it just is. I mean, counterfactual.
That's literally what I was going to say. It's like, it just goes against common sense. It's just not real. By the way, side note, I even forgot to mention this, guys. When I flew out here to Dallas, I flew from Phoenix last night, and on my plane was Carrie Lake. And
interesting.
What a God, yeah. I don't know what she's doing here in Dallas, but
I guarantee she's raising money.
Probably, yeah. It has probably to do with that. I mean, obviously I didn't say anything, or she doesn't know me, but the point where I'm going with all this is that there were some people on the plane that did recognize her and were very supportive. Were very pro, whatever you want to call it, on that side. I don't know if they were flying back home to Dallas or whatever, but either way, it was an interesting thing to see her on the plane, Southwest. I was going to mention something else besides that, because I forgot to mention that earlier. But I was going to say, kind of to your point about this Trump and his slide and so forth. But I think people sometimes don't realize what happens if he does win and then he becomes incapacitated or dies. I mean, then guess who's in line? And I think from what we're seeing, he's equally as concerning. I think he also lives in a world of bizarreness.
They're both really so terribly bad that it's hard for me to say who's worse than the other. But clearly, Vance is not somebody who needs to be near any major decision making.
Well, I mean, considering he's a wholly owned entity of Peter Thiel and would be, just doing, billionaire bidding. Not that Trump hasn't been doing the same thing, but it's like, this. I mean, for me, the thing that I really despise about him is here are people, ripping into your family and your wife who is 100% Indian, and you can't defend her.
Right.
I mean, come on, Ted Cruz. Trump called his wife ugly.
Right. I mean,
No, I mean, it's like where I grew up, you do that to your girlfriend or wife, you've got to fight.
Right. No matter what. I mean, when you say things like that about your family, no, I agree.
So Mark Leibovich, a journalist who is on the staff of the Atlantic magazine, has been doing a series of articles about how the Republicans got so bad.
Right.
And it's worth reading. I'm just going to say, go to the Atlantic. See what he has to say. I'll post it on. I'll post the link on our Street Fight Politics page. But they've been doing this since 2016, where they just ignore how horrible he is. They'll swallow any amount of shit in order to get ahead. And it's disgusting. And whether it's Vance or Cruz or
I think it's
Lindsey
the
Graham,
entire
they're all terrible about it. They're all just gutless.
You know, there was this congressman from Texas that was being interviewed on NPR yesterday that I was listening to, and it was an apology tour defending Trump, wholesale blaming that this is the Democrats' fault, that it's their inflammatory rhetoric got this guy to fly from Hawaii to Florida, get out, legally buy a gun, and an AK-47, which is one of the most inaccurate weapons you can.
It's not even an AK-47, by the way. It's an SKS, which is not. I mean, anyway, sorry. Carry on. I'm being geeky. I'm being gun geeky.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, we need that. So, but the point being is that and here's this guy voted for Trump in 2016, and he's pissed because now Trump is the candidate, not being Trumpy enough, and wants Vivek Ramaswamy and Haley to actually be the nominee. And, that's the Democrats' fault that he did that. So but when it's shouted out there and then amplified by the press, that's all they hear is that, the low information, person that may or may not even be engaged yet hears that, oh my God, it's the Democrats caused this guy to, second time that this guy's been, his life has been threatened. It's like, we're going to have to put him up there next to Abraham Lincoln
It's odd. I mean, I was just kind of sitting here listening to all the names we just mentioned. And if you line all these people up, there is something very real about this whole thing about they're just weird. I mean, think about it. Cruz, all these guys, they're just a little off or weird, or they live in this world of strangeness. It really is, something to be said about.
These are not people you would want. I mean, if they walked up to you or sat next to you at a bar, you would want to move.
Or people that, if they lived on your block, you would be like, oh, that guy down the street's a little strange, that kind of thing. So it's not funny, but it is in a way. I was thinking about all the names we just mentioned, Vivek and Cruz and, the JD Vance and all, even Carrie Lake. They're just, she had a strange look on her face too. It was just weird. I don't know, man.
She's got the scary Lake look. That's what we call it here. So
she was looking around like, yeah. She had this look on her face.
Who's that creature that ran for senator when Carrie Lake was running for governor? Masters.
Oh, Blake Masters.
Blake Masters.
Yeah.
Talk about weird.
Oh, yeah. Well, but the other guy is even stranger. What's the one that actually is Blake Masters, and then
there was Daniel Valenzuela that was going around. Demand Daniel. They were both trying to see who could get to the right of Trump and all of the hunt. It was just insane to watch. But that was the Republican primary, and and it's like you get somehow the other guy from Arizona, Abe Hamadeh. Oh my God, another one.
He was running against Blake. They're both bizarre. Abe Hamadeh. He had these signs out there that he was claiming to be the Trumpiest, of them all. And then what's the guy up in Prescott, the congressman?
Gosar.
Man, there's people that I know don't even want to talk to the guy. Even Republican clients that we have, so they just don't. They don't go into his office because he's weird.
When you look at when you look at Robinson, this guy Robinson that's running for governor in North Carolina, who's probably doing more than any one person to get Kamala elected in North Carolina because he's so terribly bad. But that's what we're seeing across the board in so many of these Republican races. You have to be a complete weirdo to actually get elected as a Republican candidate to get to the primary.
I mean, yeah, the Republican candidate for governor of North Carolina is a black guy that's disappointed that he can't join the KKK. So it doesn't really understand why he's not going to let him in.
So you two Arizonans, help me out here, because I have lost track, and I love Arizona, but it's one of 50. What's going on with this this referendum for multi-party vote? Where is that now? Where it's going to be, best of breed? I can't. I'm not using the right words. Talk to me. You explain it to me.
Open primary, or
yes, that's what I'm trying to get at. Yes,
it's going to be open primary with no party. So it's going to be like California.
Yeah, California, exactly.
So
I was just going to say we have that in California. I say we because I'm from there, but first and
is it
second
going to
place.
win?
I mean, I'm all for
good.
it. What that does is that lets you get, two sane candidates, and
Yeah.
And it's like, if you have a bunch of the Q Trump looking guys that are way out on the right, let them split the vote, and then you have a runoff with two people that are acceptable.
How's it
is
looking?
now.
I guess what I really want to know is it going to pass? Because I'm for it. I'm totally for it.
Well, I can tell you the people that are coming out against it,
Yeah.
tells me that they're very fearful it is going to pass.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, because it's the people that are in fear of losing power that want fewer people to vote.
Yeah.
Essentially. So the open primary just opens it up. And the way it is now, you can only vote for your own party. Obviously, it's a closed primary. If you're a Democrat, you vote this way, you get a ballot only with your but that discourages people from voting, because some of them say, well, I'm just going to wait for the general,
Yeah.
So I think, to your question, will it pass? I think it will, because the way it's an argument of you have more choice, kind of an argument, and I think that argument will win. But Ed brings up a good point, though. The people that are against it are, some of the more conservative factions that only want, their country club folks or whomever it is to vote, and no one else in a primary. So I think it'll pass. I do.
I would love to see that across the country, and I know that's not going to happen. But in a system where we really do only have two parties, and there's really I don't see any end to that realistically in our lifetime for sure. It certainly seems like a better way to be able to at least break some of that logjam that we see right now.
Even local council races are just basically open. I mean, at the most basic level, you just vote for the individual.
Yeah.
So I think, I agree with you, is my point. But
well, we'll see. I'll be doing a happy dance if Arizona can quit electing idiots and just complete ideologues to office. By the way, is that open primary going to trickle down? Is it across the entire state? So for the legislature as well?
Yeah, so it would be for everything.
Okay, cool.
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah. If it passes,
I might have had a chance if that had been in place. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, right? You haven't. It's true though. You get an open primary, you don't have to choose candidates that are just so in line with the party. Now it could be anybody essentially. And in California, it hasn't actually had any in my opinion, any negative consequences. I think it's actually a pretty good system.
Alaska has that too, I think.
An open primary.
Yeah, I believe that to be true. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's how they actually elected their Democratic representative they have now, was because Republicans couldn't agree.
It puts the middle of the electorate back in charge.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
And so, when you play the Venn diagram of politics, it's like all of a sudden now I don't have to get, way out to both sides, which is with these closed primaries, what we've got. Then all of a sudden, we can start, you can start sounding sane, back toward the middle, actually talk policies, do the stuff that politics is supposed to do, which is fill the potholes in the roads, collect the garbage, make sure the police come out when you call them, things that you need for a society to actually run. And, to me, I think that's one of the big things that people are getting tired of. It's like we've had a structural deficit of police officers in the state of Arizona for going for 20 years now.
Yeah.
It's like, since I used to do a lot of trauma work, so we had a lot of opportunity to interact with cops. And since, easily the late 90s, Phoenix has been down hundreds, if not thousands of cops for what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, that is true.
The, state troopers, they're down, hundreds of what they're supposed to, they're supposed to be.
Before we lose track of this, I want to say that Laura C., one of our viewers, is asking if we're talking about ranked choice voting, and I'm not sure what the difference is.
Say that again.
She's asking if what we're talking about with this open primary is that the same as ranked choice voting?
No, that's a different.
Correct. It's different. It's different.
Okay.
But ranked choice voting also has, weeds out the extremists. And so, you may have an extremist that gets 35% of the vote, wins the first round. But what happens is that, say there's 5 candidates running, you take everybody's ballot and the person with the least amount of votes gets kicked out. And those people then have their ballots, they go to their second choice, and you keep doing that until somebody hits 50%.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a different system.
Similar to some degree, but not the same.
Right.
Not the same, no.
Structurally just different, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about is what's called a jungle primary. So it's
right. There you go.
Top 2, get to do a runoff in the fall and then go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You think about it like, it's kind of like a big giant city council race essentially, where people are just nonpartisan and they don't declare their party, at least, and you just vote for the top few candidates. I mean, it literally is that.
Anything to get the idiots out on both ends. I mean, I'm anti-idiot, and the Republicans seem to have the majority of them at the moment, but that's not always been the case.
No, correct. And Arizona seems to have a higher, concentration. I don't know why. It is a strange phenomenon. I mean, I don't know. I do remember though moving to Arizona relatively recently, thinking, man, what is going on here? Is it the heat? Is it I don't know. But I think it's slowly but surely though you are seeing people, at least from what I've seen, Ed. I don't know you have a take on this, but slowly we do see some better qualified candidates, at least on the Democratic side, taking a run for things. So, which is good. That's a good thing.
Well, I've certainly seen that. Coming from somebody who, like Ed, was a Republican and then migrated into the Democratic Party. What kept me away for so long were the Dennis Kuciniches of the Democratic Party.
Oh,
the James Trafficant, if you can remember back that far.
Yeah, remember that. He went to prison, right? That guy was in prison.
He did. But through the change of the 80s, basically being sent to the woodshed, as the Democrats were after the Reagan years, a lot of those people got forced out. We had to get better as a party, and that's what I see is the Republicans have been in power so long that they can afford to be idiots. That's because they were going to win anyway, and now
I
it's
see what you're
really
saying.
Home to haunt them.
They didn't have to work at being good, kind of an argument. So. Yeah, they didn't have to form a bench.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Again, we've discussed this before, but I think we're in a period of time that's not unlike the McCarthy era in the 50s, where you had, the deep state communists, and there was one under every rock, and pretty much what I see is the same people that are the Trumpers and Q-Trumplicans today were the McCarthyites, 70 years ago.
It's absolutely the same personality type for sure.
Right.
Same personality type, the strong man. They, want, somebody to tell them what to do. And they're very fearful of everybody around them, and at their core, pretty bigoted.
Yeah, exactly.
As, the way they approach life. And, you go back and, you study the history. There are a lot of people that have careers damaged. They're very fearful. But once it broke, It just went away.
It did.
And
You're right, and nobody wanted to talk about it.
well, for good reason, because the stench that accompanied being the people that were hardcore McCarthyites, all of a sudden, that was like, wearing a white hood, going downtown, in Harlem. You're not going to get very far before you get killed.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I think that's going to be the big thing with the Republicans that have been, backing Trump, without fail, that they're not going to be able to wipe this off.
No.
Because, you want to run for something? Well, hold on. Weren't you the one that was out there, backing Trump and backing all the stuff that he did? This is the role model that you aligned yourself with, the whole pussy grabbing and the scams and, the whole J6.
How do you recover from that? I don't know how. I mean, I know that they will, and that's what makes me sad is that they will, but I don't know how that could possibly be. I don't get it.
Well, that's why I analyze it as a former Republican who's left in the party that you can salvage that party. And it's like, there are people that are still there that are, the Republicans for Harris, that's, I don't know how big it is, but it's out there. I mean, I certainly see it, on the social media.
Let me give you an example. So the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, who in any normal political atmosphere would be a normal, reasonable Republican, not somebody that I'm going to agree with policy-wise, but somebody who you can work with, who has come out and said, no, Haitians are not eating dogs and cats. They are great people. They came there to work. They were invited. They're doing exactly what we wanted them to do. And, this is crazy. And yet still won't say that Trump is causing a problem. I don't understand how anybody with guts could not do that.
Well, that's where I think they're missing something. That's where I look at Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney, I'm not giving her props for being brave. I'm looking at giving her props for being very calculated and playing the long game out in the future, that once, this burns down, which is why, I guarantee you that's why she and Daddy came out in favor of Harris. They want to burn this down so that out of the ash, she's going to come in as, I'm going to say, I'm the savior now. That's the game she's playing, which is, to me, a brilliant political move to do. And that's why I agree with you, Harry, that I don't understand why he doesn't come out. It's like, for right now, Trump's going to tear into you, but I don't think he's going to be around. He's going to matter very soon. And so, I look at it as a huge missed political opportunity, not being out on that side. It's like Adam Kinzinger. It's like I have seen him on talk show after talk show after talk show, since he's done that. And I think he's going to resurrect himself. I'm not sure where he's going to run or what he's going to run for, but I guarantee you he's going to be one of the ones, like Liz Cheney, that's going to be left standing once this happens.
It hurts me that the Republican Party could actually be resurrected. I mean, I want it to be anything else. I want it to be the Elephant Party. I want it to be anything other than the Republican Party.
Correct.
And we need to have a home for the Liz Cheneys and the Adam Kinzingers and the folks who just can't, who have walked away, who've turned away from.
Well, that's where I think you have to go back and look at the 1840s, when the Whig Party did, they imploded the same way, and the people that were left after that formed the Republican Party. That's where, which was a very different Republican Party than what we've got now. They've got the same name, but this is
completely different. Yeah, it's like saying the Democratic Party is the same as the party of the 1890s.
Yeah.
It's not.
The tropes you see online. Well, you were the ones that were, the slavers and stuff like that. Yeah, in 1860, that was very true.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's going to be a complete seismic shift. You're right.
Well, that was the whole Nixon Southern strategy. Parties flop. They switch sides. Which is why when I was in medical school back in the 80s, you saw all these Texas Democrats, up and switched parties and became Republicans.
Interesting.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got to Texas in 1980, and the governor was a Democrat named Mark White. And in any normal time now, Mark White would be pretty much a Republican. I mean, the old style Republican, you know.
Right.
It would be an establishment Republican, more aligned,
Yeah.
You know, with Eisenhower more than anybody. So
yeah. All right. Well,
which is wild.
It's going to be interesting to watch, and it certainly is interesting to watch. It's also incredibly frustrating because I got to tell you, the violence that came out after, you know, when we looked at, and it's literally been only a week since the debate, right? That was a week ago. It seems like a year.
Forever.
But a week ago, we were, well, a week and minus a few hours, we were on cloud 9 about how well Kamala had done and how poorly Trump had done.
Yeah.
And then within days, literally like 2 days, I was already depressed as hell about just how ridiculous this thing had gotten with the dogs and the cats, and not just them saying it, but the way people reacted to it.
Fear not, my good man, because that's not what I'm seeing on the ground. It's like, I get that in social media. You watch the news. Again, it's you know, a limited sample size, you know, in hospitals and stuff like that. It's like, just mentioned just an aside, and, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, we're having a conversation with 10 people, you know, in a procedure room, and they're all agreeing with me. And it's like, you know, they're saying the same things, that, you know, they're tired of the division and the hate, and, you know, they want to be able to, you know, have a normal life. So, you know, yes, I mean, it's like, you know, it was, you know, a great high to come out of that debate, but you have to remember, these guys are, you know, fighting for their life. And, you know, Trump's fighting to stay out of prison.
Yeah.
And so there is nothing he will not do or say to do that. I mean, from his standpoint, he's got nothing to lose.
Nope.
I mean, literally nothing.
So, Louis, you circulate on both sides of the aisle, and you talk to these people. I mean, you're there in Dallas with the chamber folks. Are you seeing the same? I mean, are people just sick and tired? And I mean, on the Republican side, on the conservative side, are they just done with it?
No, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing that they're just kind of like holding their nose and supporting them. At least, you know, in the circles that you're in that are more conservative. However, though, I will say this, though, what I am definitely seeing, and I think this might be a little bit room for some hope if you're a Democrat, is that there is much, much more enthusiasm on the Democratic side, whereas I am seeing some people on the Republican side not necessarily being sick of it, but just like, there's no enthusiasm. There's like, oh, this guy, you know, there's not like, we got to get this guy back kind of an attitude. I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing,
I think the numbers are saying the same thing. When I live in a blue bubble for all intents and purposes, and so my perceptions aren't really accurate sometimes. But when I look at the actual data and what we're getting at a 538 and all the polls,
I was going to ask about that.
So the latest is that 538, I think, as of last night, with their modeling, has Kamala over a 60% chance of winning. I mean, both the popular vote and and more importantly the
popular vote,
the electoral vote.
Vote is what
and a lot of what I've seen leading up to that is exactly what you've described, Louis, where it's not that Trump voters are walking away. It's that they just are not excited about it anymore. The hardcore may be, but the ones who really need to put them over the top aren't. And that the Democrats definitely have the edge on the excitement. And you look at the number of volunteers, the number of small dollar donors, or donors. I mean, it multiple measurements are telling me that she's got the momentum, and I don't think we're going to lose that.
And don't forget, we have Taylor Swift.
That's it. And that actually is a big.
That clinches it right there.
No, I agree. That's a huge deal. I mean, people don't understand. It's huge. I mean, you know, I was going to mention something. You know, when I used to run for office, I remember some of my re-elections, for example. You know, there's someone running against you, and you go after a particular senator's endorsement or whoever it is. And that person is you know, in the middle, or they don't know where they're going to go. And the argument was always, well, just stay out of it then.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not going to support me, then just stay out of it. And I think that's kind of the argument here that could be effective, you know, to some of these Republicans. Just don't vote then. You know, if you're not excited about your guy, just don't vote, because, you know, it ain't going to help the greater good. You have to be excited about someone to vote for them. Don't vote just
to me, that's the George W. Bush dynamic. You know, where he's not going to, he certainly hasn't endorsed and is not going to endorse, which is volumes right there. But he's not going to say vote for Kamala, and he's going to do whatever he does, and nobody's going to know how he voted.
Right. And there's a certain amount of respect you have for that, because you're like, okay, well, you know, you're not voting for someone blindly because they have an R next to the name, even though he's kind of like a lunatic. You're just, you know, you have some sensibility. So I think you're right. I think the models are right. I think from what I'm hearing, it's right. I'm just not hearing, you know, like the Democrats' dream of like they're walking away from the guy. I just don't see that.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not going to happen. And that, again, personally, that hurts me.
Me too.
That's our America.
That's the point, right? You would hope that people have more sense, but I mean, there are maybe one or two here and there that tell me that, but it's not a lot, you know.
No, it's not overwhelming at all.
Well, guys, I want to switch to another topic here, where I think it's a social issue, one that I think that we've all dealt with the heartbreak and pain of, and that is, what do you do when you have a close friend or a family member come out of the closet that you didn't know about as a Trump supporter? Jeez. Or even worse, they used to be a Democrat, and that now all of a sudden they're going around with a red cap on and, you know, going MAGA.
I mean, is this over like a Thanksgiving dinner, or is this what do you do? I mean,
I've lost so many friends and associates over the last decade. Me personally, if they make it an issue, then I'm out.
Right. Look, in full, you know, whatever you want to say, disclosure or whatever, but you know, I play hockey in Peoria, in Arizona, and a lot of my teammates are Trump guys, you know, and we sit there in the locker room and we talk, and their attitude is almost like there's nothing you can tell. I like you, Louis. You know, we play together, we get along. Nothing you're going to tell me is going to change my mind. So it's kind of like, what do you do in that moment, right? Because some of these guys I never knew that's how they felt. I mean, it was like 2 years until I found out, you know, about that. And it's the same feeling, because these are like family to me, you know, some of these guys. And to your point, I don't ever try to make it an issue and get political with them, but it is extremely disappointing and revealing to me that there are people out there that are like that.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, from my standpoint, it's like, you know, to me, with a couple of people I've had, it's like finding out that, oh, you're in the KKK. It's like,
right.
You know, because it's like that goes against everything you've ever stood for in your life. And it's like, I understand, you know, how you do that, because it's like, you know, you're going to align yourself, you know, with somebody that basically goes against every value you've ever espoused in your life. And you're going to turn to somebody that has nothing but, you know, espousing fear and hatred and bigotry. You know, that, I mean, that's their message.
It literally is. It literally is. Yeah. It's
and that's the thing. I really do view it as a moral failure. When and again, it's if they make it an issue, if they're going to bring it up and continue to push it, I'm done. I'm out. And I have lost friends and
oh, so have I.
I'm going to say relatives. Obviously, they're still relatives, but I just don't associate with them anymore.
No,
I don't want to talk to them.
I think that, that's a pretty widespread phenomenon. It's like Laura here put up, she lost a friend of 40 years.
Wow.
I've talked to other people that have had, literally lifelong friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, done.
They're done. It's like literally just cut them out of their life.
I grew up, my father was a history teacher. One of his favorite subjects in history was the Civil War. He was fascinated by it, the whole dynamics of it. And he could discuss it dispassionately, but interestingly. And I never understood the situations where families were split apart by it. I couldn't comprehend how that would be. Now I totally get it. Same thing with Nazi Germany. I couldn't understand how people could be split apart in that way or follow that dynamic. And now I really get it because I've seen it happen in my own life.
It's true. And what I'm going to say, I'm going to try to say this in a careful way here, but I don't, I have two kind of, factions in my the larger family, at least, not my immediate, but the larger family, those that are educated and those that are not. And I have not come across someone that is on the educated side reasonably talk about why they would vote for Trump. That person doesn't exist, is my point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Usually it's the person that is that doesn't know the three branches of government. There are people like that. You ask them, what are the three branches of government? Oh, they don't know. They literally don't know. That's 101, right? But for somebody that does know that and they've been educated and they're probably, in my experience and my family, not voting for Trump. So you think you know what I'm getting at. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that are like that, unfortunately.
That's been my experience. The other Trump voters, and again, in my own personal circle, are the ones who are just incredibly emotional about things.
Yeah.
And take the emotional track over the logical track every single time.
Right.
The ones who get really upset when football players kneel during the national anthem.
Or just knowing history, even. I mean, like.
Yeah, or knowing history, exactly.
Right. World War II, the basic things. I mean, how the country is so.
Well, and that's why it's. I agree. It's very compartmentalized. They get upset when you kneel, at a football game, but Trump goes and makes a mockery at Arlington Cemetery of the Soul grave. Oh, well, he was invited there. Well, no, actually, you can't get invited there because I was just in Arlington 3 months ago, and there are rules, and even the ex-presidents of the United States do not get to break those rules. I mean, those are like hallowed rules.
Or thinks it's so terrible to get wounded in war. I mean, I just don't. My father was a veteran of Vietnam. I mean, how can you say something about somebody like that? It's just.
It just boggles the imagination how much they can ignore in order to support the emotional aspect of what they want to see.
It's insane.
I mean, that's why with a lot of these things, I agree with Laura. I mean, it's like a death. A relationship that you've had, for a long time, and now it's gone. And it's like even if you try to maintain it, you're not going to ever be able to talk openly and honestly about pretty much anything. It's like, I've got some family members that, look at me with, it's like we're family, but we cannot talk about certain subjects. And pretty much there is no subject that you can come up with that can't be slanted as a political thing. Oh, well, I'm sure that's exactly what you and your Democratic buddies would say. And it's like, how did you get that? And, and so eventually, there's, you talk about the weather. Oh, well, that's climate change. I mean, it's like, there's no
right. Climate change. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, we've been at this for 45 minutes now. And I can tell you that the mind can only stand what the butt can bear, and mine's about worn out.
Speaking of like 45 or whatever minutes, what are we, like 40 something days from the election, right? So
no, 49.
Or it is going to happen quick,
7 weeks from today.
Wow.
In 30 minutes, we will start getting the first results coming in from the East Coast.
That's wild.
So 7 weeks from today and 30 minutes, I'm still going to be high on some sort of opioid.
We're
recovering from my knee replacement. So,
y'all
have fun. I'll wake up and deal with the aftermath several hours later.
And Harry, it's funny because I do know, I travel so much that sitting in that position in a hotel will make your butt feel weird. So
totally.
That's why I never try to do work from the bed too much, because I have to get up. I'm like,
I didn't think about it. I literally was going to be on the balcony with the ocean to my back and the waves and everything, and it was going to look great. And then it rained.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's terrible. Have a drink instead and relax or something.
Amen.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Laura, we are going to talk about that next week. So that's actually one of the other issues. And everybody that's been here, I want to thank you for joining us today. I mean, we are honored and appreciate that you did take the time to join us. We look forward to seeing you again. And God knows what's going to happen over the next 7 days for us to talk about in a week.
I'm going to predict right now the polls are going to continue to climb for Kamala. I mean, yeah. I think, yeah.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. That would be the hope. We'll see, man. See what I can go out and I'm going to go down to the lobby and try to talk sanity into some of these Dallas folks here. Wish me luck.
Okay. Just make sure
good luck, Louie. I'm going to go down to the lobby and have a gin and tonic. That's what I'm going to do.
There you go.
Hey, everybody. Again, thank you, everybody. And see you 7 days from now.
Yep.
Indeed. All right. Adios, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.